On the phone we have, I'll say it, the best knuckleball pitcher in the history of knuckleballs, Phil Niekro, a man who won 318 games in a career that lasted what seemed like a lot, decades, because it did. Hall of Famer, Phil Niekro, welcome to Sports and Torts. How are you?
David, I am fine. Beautiful day up in Georgia, and hope you're having a good day up there.
You're known for your knuckleball. How good were your other pitches?
I don't think they were that good. I mean, I couldn't have survived. I wouldn't have even made it to the minor leagues without my knuckleball. I had a little slider and a little sinking fastball. I never threw hard. A good wind behind me, I get up to 82, 83. But I kind of spotted my other pitches. But I got guys out with them, but it was more of an element of surprise, maybe more than anything. Everybody up there was going looking for a knuckleball. I knew they were looking for it, and I really didn't care. If I had to go knuckleball, I felt pretty comfortable. But at the same time, it made the other couple of pitches pretty effective because they weren't looking for them. They were sitting on knuckleballs all the time.
I see that your dad taught you the knuckleball. Was your dad a minor league pitcher?
No, he was a semi-pro for a coal mining team back in a little town in Ohio called Lansing, and I grew up watching him play for the minor league coal mining team. And one day in the backyard, I don't know how old I was, he threw me a knuckleball, and he laughed. I missed it, and I said, "What was it?" And showed me and told me how to hold it, and we started playing knuckleball in the backyard. Didn't know what it was, and it was just something that when we choosed up sides in my little town to get the boys and the girls together to play baseball, that's what I can get them out with. And, by the time I was a freshman in high school, I was a knuckleball pitcher. Did 4 years of high school at knuckleball and went to a tryout camp, and Milwaukee Brave Scouts signed me.
Growing up in Ohio, you were friends with John Havlicek. Was he a baseball player?
Yeah. Oh, John he could do anything he wanted to. He was I think he got drafted by the White Sox. I wanted him. A couple other teams. One of the best basketball players in the state of Ohio. Good, exceptionally good football player. Good baseball player. He could run track. He could wrestle. Anything he wanted to do. John was just that very unique, all-around, great athlete, super good condition guy. As long as I've known him, I'm sure he still is. I just talked to him a couple of days ago.
Was he able to hit your knuckleball?
So far, so long ago in the backyards and a little wherever we could play, I can't remember. I'm sure he could.
At what point did you feel that you had mastered the knuckleball, or do you ever feel that you've mastered the knuckleball?
I don't think I ever did. I was still trying to figure out. In 1987, when I retired. I don't know why it does what it does. I don't think anybody knows why it does what it does. It's a freak of nature kind of a pitch. There's a lot of physics behind it. I know a lot of people have taken tests and documents and trying to figure it out, and I don't think anybody has come up with the right solution. That all I've read about it, they can explain curveballs and sliders and change-ups and fastballs, but not too many people can explain why a knuckleball does what it does. So I made a living on what the hell I was doing half the time.
When you got signed by the Braves in '59, were other teams scouting you? Because it seems like most of the time scouts want guys who throw hard, who have a good fastball, a good curveball. They don't really scout it like off-speed pitchers.
No, I tried out for the Pittsburgh Pirates, which is about 70 miles from my hometown, Ohio, and I guess I didn't impress anybody there, and I went to a tryout camp, Milwaukee Braves. I had an article in the paper in Wheeling, West Virginia, across the river from where I kind of lived, and I told my dad I was going. I hitchhiked a ride down. I took my shoes and my spikes, and I threw the knuckleball on the side, and I hit and I ran and did everything, and when I was leaving the ballpark, the scout says, what's your name, where do you live, what's your telephone number, and by the time I got home, my dad just got back from the coal mine. He said Milwaukee Scout wants to come out and talk to us, which, got me pretty excited. So he came out that night, and after a couple hours of my cooking him a nice little Polish dinner, he said Milwaukee Braves are interested in signing your son to a minor league contract. how does $275 a month sound to you? And we'll give you a $500 bonus. And boy, I said, yeah, let's jump all over that, Dad. So that was the start. The next spring, I got in a train in Wheeling, West Virginia, went to Waycross, Georgia, and that's where it all started.
When you joined the Braves, still on the pitching staff was Warren Spahn, who was into his 40s by that time, to say, gee, what's this old man still doing pitching?
No, I never looked at it that way. I never looked at ages. I just always looked at talent and the makeup of a guy, the way he approached the game, how he handled himself on the field. Those were things I looked at. Of course, everybody knew Warren Spahn. Lou Burdett was there at that time. You know, I think Del Crandall was in the big leagues. I got to work out with him a couple of times in my career early at spring training, and always kept getting sent down. And it wasn't until my second year when I was in Jacksonville, Florida, my manager, Red Murph, who also signed Nolan Ryan. And, boy, there's a night and day situation there. And halfway through the season, he said, Niekro, he said, if you can get your knuckleball all over the place, you could pitch in the big leagues. And no one's ever told me that before. And that really motivated me. And then I just took the bull by the horn. And someone believes in me, which made me believe in myself. And just how far do I want to go? What sacrifice do I want to make? What commitments do I want to make? And then from there on, it was just the whole career after that was nothing but knuckleballs.
You had some great pitchers and hitters on those Braves teams, one of them being Hank Aaron. What was Hank Aaron like?
He was a very, very quiet guy. He didn't say a whole lot in the dugouts. We'd have meetings. He wouldn't say a whole lot. I think he showed by example how he walked in that clubhouse and put his uniform on and went out every day and took batting practice. Every day he took infield practice. He could do it all. He could run, he could hit, he could throw, he could steal bases. I mean, there wasn't nothing he couldn't do. And I think his stats throughout his career, justified all that. And no, but he was very quiet. He just led by example.
In '69, the Braves won the National League West. You guys had a great team. And did you say to yourself, we're going to the World Series?
Well, you like to think that. That's the year I won 23 ball games, and we did have a good ball club. We made a couple of trades there, and I don't think you ever look that far ahead. You look about winning your pennant the first time, at least I was, and then we finally won the pennant and got in the playoff with the Mets, and the amazing Mets, and they beat us 3 in a row that year, and didn't get into another playoff until I think 82 or 81 with St. Louis, and we lost 3 there. So we got close a couple of times, but was never able to pop the cord or light the cigar.
Besides Hank Aaron, you mentioned you had Warren Spahn. Another guy was Eddie Matthews. I mean, he was just a phenom who was probably the greatest third baseman of all time. Was he quiet like Hank, or was he different?
Eddie was a little bit more boisterous. He was a tougher guy. He was more of a macho type guy, and he let his feelings be heard. And he didn't let anything stand in his way. And Henry was just the opposite of that. I knew him, but I knew Eddie, but not a whole lot. He managed me a little bit, a couple of years. The year I won my no-hitter, he was my manager. Spring training, I really wasn't concerned about those guys. I was concerned about going out and pitching good every time I could and keep making that advance from rookie ball to D to CBA, AA, AAA, and finally get to the big league. So I looked at the long end of it more probably than anything and what I had to do to get there. So those guys really didn't have any influence on how I was going to pitch because I certainly couldn't pitch like those guys. I was just the opposite of those guys. So I just had to take the bull by the horn and go with it.
When the Braves moved from Milwaukee to Atlanta, how warmly did Atlanta embrace the ball club and the players?
I think they did. Big League Baseball in the South, I think we were the first ones in the South to really bring Big League Baseball down there when we moved from Milwaukee in '66 to Atlanta. '69 we won the pennant in third year, so that was a pretty big deal. But in the South, the Southeast is football. It's all college, collegiate football and basketball. More football than anything. So I think it took the people in the South a while to hook on to professional baseball. I knew they have high school ball down here and collegiate baseball, but Big League Baseball was kind of all new to them, and it took them a little while to get onto it. And then in '69, when we won a pennant, I think everybody jumped on board there. And then, well, I think that was the last good year we had because in the '70s we were terrible.
In '69, when you finished second in the Cy Young Award to Tom Seaver, do you think that you got basically discriminated against because they felt that you were using a true pitch and Tom was more of the more traditional pitcher?
Oh, I don't have sports right. I do remember I lost 2 balls on 2 games in the rain out. So I was leading one time against Philadelphia, and I think 2-1 or 3-1 going to the 5th inning. Rained out, and we just have to start those games over at that time. So there was 2 games in there. I might have won with a 25, but exceptional good year. Down here in the South, we didn't get a whole press. We didn't get TV or radio, just kind of local. But up there was the big market. And I think more people up there and more sports writers and more fans throughout baseball knew Tom Seaver more down in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, what was the reaction from your catchers when this knuckleballer comes to town? Did they say, did you have a favorite catcher?
Oh, probably Bruce Benedict was my favorite. Bob Uecker was very instrumental in me getting on the right track. I had Joe Torre and Gene Oliver, some of those guys. But, I was in Atlanta one time, and the general manager called me and said, we're going to send you to Richmond AAA. I said, why? He said, we don't have anybody to catch your knuckleball. And I got sent down on account of that. And then when Paul Richards came over from Baltimore, who knew about knuckleball pitchers, he traded Gene Oliver from the Braves to Philadelphia for Bob Uecker, catcher for catcher. Just come down and have Bob Uecker catch my knuckleball and call it in situations where other catchers wouldn't call it. And so I could stay in games. And Uecker told me, he said, hey, I'm going to have pass balls and you're going to have wild pitches, and we're going to lose games, but we're going to win more if you throw that knuckleball. And I called it. And I followed that. In that year, I led the league in ERA, 1.87, and Bob Uecker led the league in pass balls.
Was Uecker as funny during his playing career as he became after it?
Oh, yeah, but I don't think people knew that until, he got on the Johnny Carson show and had a little TV program and done a lot of speaking engagements. I think that's where his funniness really came out. Other than baseball, he was pretty serious. He'd cut up and he'd keep us laughing and cracked up at times, but come game time, he was all business. And I think when his career is over, people realize what a great comedian he was.
What hitter gave you the hardest time?
Billy Buckner.
Why was that?
Because I knew every time he came to the plate that his objective was to get to first base, and that's always the toughest guy to pitch to. I know I might have struck him out once, maybe twice in my career, but he always put the ball between the 2 white lines. I don't know what kind of average he had off of me. I'd rather face Mays or Stargell or those guys with the base loaded than I would with Bill Buckner. I couldn't strike Bill Buckner out. I could strike the other guys out. Of course, when they hit it, they could hit the next county, but Buckner was just a tough out for me. The little guys that wanted to get to first base, knew the strike zone very well, were the toughest guys for me. And I think if more hitters took that approach today, pitchers would have a lot more difficult time of pitching, because it's just a little tougher to pitch a man on base, one or two guys, than it is with nobody on.
Well, they say that the key to hitting a knuckleball pitcher is to go to the plate like you have a rolled up newspaper as your bat. Is
I
that
don't
the
know.
approach?
I don't know. I hit one home run off of Charlie Huff in Atlanta off a knuckleball. My late brother Joe, hit one home run in his career, hit off of me on a knuckleball. So I guess maybe knuckleball pitchers have a little more tendency to realize what the ball is coming in there is going to do. We weren't great hitters, but we felt pretty comfortable up at the plate because we knew basically sometimes what knuckleballs would do. Johnny Bench had the best explanation for me after a career was over, and we talked about the knuckleball, and I got him out. He had home runs off of him, but Johnny told me, he says, I never looked at you as a knuckleball pitcher. And that's what he talked about. I was throwing knuckleballs, so you knew they were coming. He said, I took the knuckleball theory, the knuckleball thought out of my head, and I looked at you as a breaking ball pitcher because every pitch you threw was going to be a break. It was going to break someplace. So I looked at you as a breaking ball pitcher, and no one's ever told me that before.
No, it makes sense here. I mean, because he wasn't getting phased. He just figured, okay, let me just guess where this ball is going to break when I swing.
Yeah, he just took the knuckleball. A lot of guys before a game starts knows is going to face, thinking about, gee, left-handed or right-handed, get a big back, choke up, get in front, back of the box. Am I going to look foolish? Am I going to go more balls? Am I going to swing at strikes? And a lot of guys, even before they walk up to the plate, strike against them because they're thinking even before they get up to the plate. A lot of guys like to get up to the plate and just say, give me your best stuff. It's me and you. Let my natural reaction take over. And man-to-man, macho-to-macho, let's go at it. And here comes a knuckleball pitcher out there kind of forward and throwing something you haven't seen probably, maybe once or twice.
Are you surprised there aren't more knuckleball pitchers?
Well, I think now that since Dickey won the Cy Young Award, that not just in this country, but I think all over the baseball world, that people know that a knuckleball is an avenue to get to the big leagues. I know they're out there looking for guys that throw 90, 92, 93. Everybody can't do that. So this is a ticket if you want to commit and maybe sacrifice and not knowing, don't care what anybody else thinks about you. Work on a knuckleball, and that may get to the minor leagues and eventually the big leagues. I get a lot of letters about write me back and teach me how to throw a knuckleball. I have a guy from Korea flew over. A guy from China wants to come over and work on a knuckleball. So it's out there now, and it just takes that mental attitude to want to go after it.
I read somewhere when you won your 300th game, you didn't throw one knuckleball?
I threw one. The last pitch of the game to Jeff Burroughs. We were leading 9-0 against Toronto. I was going for my 300th. And Jeff Torborg, who was at the Yankees bullpen coach, always told me up there, he says, you got good enough stuff to win the big leagues without your knuckleball. And I thought he lost his mind when he told me that. But I tried 4 times before that. I don't know if I didn't have a good knuckleball or just bad days. And first couple innings, I got them out with everything but a knuckleball. I was making pitches up. They had won the pennant the night before. They were all probably full of champagne. I don't know if they knew who was pitching against them. And, 4th, 5th, we kept scoring runs, and I kept thinking, Torborg said I could do this, so let me see how far I can go with it. And all of a sudden, we're getting the 6th, 7th inning. We're leading 7-0, and I'm going to go with it. And then last batter of the game, Jeff Burroughs come up. I had 2 strikes on. Butch Weininger called timeout. He says, you want to throw a knuckleball, don't you? I said, I can't think of a better way to win the 300.
Well, I think Torborg caught a couple of Nolan Ryan's no-hitters, too, so he must have been calling. He must have known what he was doing.
I don't know, but I always remember Jeff telling me that. And every time we talk about that, I mention that to him.
When you and your brother won 20 games in the same season, I don't think that was ever done before or since. What was that like?
God, I think I might have lost one mine on the last day or something. I was 21-20 that year. I remember I started 42 games, had 41 decisions. Yeah, that was at that time we didn't know that it was ever done before. And now that we realize our careers are over, 539 games between two brothers in the big league still stands as the all-time record, which isn't a record, but I guess for a family record, me and Joe and my sister and my late mother and father and all my relatives and cousins back in Ohio and my nephews and nieces, we kind of hang on to that. We kind of think it's kind of okay. It was pretty neat.
Now, you have the most victories after age 40, 121 of them.
Yeah.
The secret to your longevity is what? I mean, there's more to pitching than just your arm, I would assume.
Well, people say, well, you could pitch that long because you didn't throw very hard. But when the game was over, mentally and physically, I was just as tired as anybody else. And then we used to pitch 8-9 innings. We'd throw 320, 30, 40 ball games. But I was very, very fortunate. I never got arm problems, never had operations. I was on a DL one time because I got hit with a line drive up on my right shoulder, getting ready for an opening day against San Diego. I never believed in age factor. Somebody's going to be the youngest, someone's going to be the oldest. I was getting paid. It was my job to go out there every 4 day or 5 and do the best I can. And while I was still pitching okay, that motivation was still to get to the World Series, which I never did. So I never looked at my age. I think everyone else did. But to me, age factor doesn't play. Either you can get them out or you can't get them out.
Can you believe it's 40 years since Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's record?
Yeah, I was down at the opening night the other night. He was there. Yeah, it doesn't seem that long, but the older you get, as we all know, where does the years go?
Yeah.
What was it like for the teammates of Hank? I mean, I know he had a lot of pressure on him, a lot of threats about breaking Babe Ruth's record. What did the teammates do to help him?
I think we talked to him about it. When you going to get it? Hope you get it tonight and all that stuff. Yeah, enough going on. I don't think anybody could have handled it with more class than Henry. He had the reporters. He always was in a different room. We stayed on the road trips. He stayed in different hotels. He just wouldn't let all that was going on affect the team. And all the stuff he was going through, I think very few of us knew all the letters he got and the hate mail and the stuff like that. He just hid that, and until after his career is over is when it all came out. And I said, you got to be kidding me. He went through all that. But, he did it first class.
After 20 seasons with the Braves, they released you after the 83 season. Did you ever say to yourself, okay, that's been enough, or did you say, hey, I can still do this? Because you went on for several more seasons.
When they released me, they called me and said, hey, we know you could still win. We know you can still pitch, which was, a little vote of confidence there. And then as soon as they released me, which was one of the low lights of my life was my career, and then a few days later, the Yankees called Steinbrenner, and that's not a bad place to go. And then I went there for 2 years and got released, and then wasn't long after that Cleveland called. So evidently someone thought I could still help them and still get batters out. And so in one way, it was a downer, but in the other way, it was an upper for you.
What was your favorite moment of your career?
Oh, I think every day I went out there and put the uniform on. I had a chance to pitch and represent a city or an organization. Probably the night that I wind up beating Detroit when I was at Cleveland, and that made me and Joe 539 games, which passed Gaylord and Jim Perry, because that was family. That was my dad. That was my mother, my sister. That was my high school, my coaches, everything back in Ohio. That's what I thought of, Joe and I. We talked about that a lot. It wasn't so much that, hey, we beat the Perry brothers. This is something that I think Lansing and State of Ohio and our fans could be a little proud of.
When you finally hang up your spikes, you say to yourself, okay, the Hall of Fame's going to be calling in a few years?
Oh, I don't know. People say, you win the 300, and then they start talking about future Hall of Famer, and they kind of put that logo on you. But you never know. It took me 5 years to get there, and when you get the phone call, it seems like it's always the right time. You always want to go in on a first or ballot or second or third, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and I think I felt more bad for my wife Nancy and my kids who was hanging around waiting for that phone call to come, and maybe the Braves organization, those people back in Ohio. That's who I kind of felt bad for. But I thought maybe eventually I would get there. We just gotta hold on. That's all. It'll come, maybe, hopefully.
How did it feel when you found out you got in?
Oh, it's like a voice from heaven. My goodness, yeah. You wait. Well, 1 year there was nobody got in, and that was a kind of hard one to figure out. But when you get the phone call, yeah, it's you could breathe a little bit. It's finally over. Don't have to get no more phone calls now. So, yeah, you get phone calls in your life, and that was as good as a phone call as I've ever gotten.
Now, you also had a brief managerial career with the Colorado Silver Bullets, and their uniqueness was it was an all-women's team. What was that experience like?
Well, it truly was. I managed in Richmond 1 year for the Atlanta Braves, AAA up in Richmond. I think if men played the game the way these young ladies play, there wouldn't be any problems. The first year, I think won 4 games or 6 out of 40 or 50, and after the fourth year, our final year, winning season, we only had I think 5 young ladies that stayed with us for the 5 years. We traveled all over the country, played against men and some good men's teams, and played against some over 40 teams. It seemed like we always had the all-star teams in certain towns that we'd go into. Played in a lot of minor league ballparks, filled them up, played in big league ballparks, I think like 9, 10, 11, the big stadiums throughout the country. And then we played in Denver. We had, 30, 40,000 over there to watch us play. So it was good. I enjoyed it. Well, I got some stories. Travel with 20, 23 ladies for 4 years. You've got some stories.
Did you ever tell them there's no crying in baseball?
No, I don't think we ever had anybody that did. No. And I still get calls from someone. When are we going to get it back? When are we going to get it back? Let's play. But, that was 4 years of my life, my baseball career that, I really, really enjoyed.
How special was it ending your career with the Braves?
I felt like I had to do that. When Toronto traded for me or got me my last 2 months of my career, I was in Cleveland, and Toronto traded for me or got me. They were in a pennant race. I pitched a month up there, got released, a month left to go in the season. I pretty much knew my career was coming to an end then, and I just didn't want to walk away from the game with a Toronto hat on. I wanted to walk away with the team that I was born with, the Braves, with that Brave logo in the land in Milwaukee. So I worked a deal out with the Atlanta Braves. They had to get permission from the commissioner that my game was not going to interfere with any kind of a pennant race or anything like that. And I got to do that on September 27th against the Giants in Atlanta. And knowing that was probably my last game, and when it was over, I just announced my retirement. But I just had to walk away from that game with Atlanta Braves hat on.
Did you have a favorite ballpark? Did you have a favorite ballpark to pitch? Did you have a favorite ballpark to pitch in?
Yeah, every one of them. Every one of them. I did protect the old. I didn't really like the old stadium in Montreal, the big white elephant they called it. damp and dreary and kind of cool. That wasn't my favorite ballpark. And the old Shea Stadium, I wasn't real fond of that one. I don't know why, but I don't know. But other than that, but I enjoyed pitching them. As long as I got the ball every 4 or 5 days and was able to go out there and earn my pay and let the fans enjoy whatever I was doing, I was a happy guy. I was very fortunate and blessed to be able to play that game for some 28 years professionally.
Did you know where the ball was going? You threw it, or you just threw it and just guessed?
I don't think any knuckleball pitcher knew exactly where that knuckleball was going. I mean, they certainly didn't hit the outside corner, and the catcher didn't say hit the outside corner low and away and next one up and in, because a knuckleball never does the same thing twice. So I just figured that if the batter don't know what's going to happen, just throw that thing down the middle of the plate and let the ball take its course and let it do what's going to do and let the batters figure it out.
Is it true that, like Pete Rose said, that once a player faced you, it would screw up his swing for a couple games?
I don't know. I've heard him say that. I don't know. I didn't play every day, and I didn't go to the bat 3, 4, 5 times a game every day in my career. So I don't know, but I did remember him saying that. Yeah.
If somebody came to you and said, "Hey, we'd like to have you in our bullpen throw an inning here or there," still up for it?
Oh, of course, always will be. Still, right now, I watch TV and go to the game. I could have got that guy out. I think every player who probably ever played will probably have that feeling. It's in there and it stays in there and it doesn't go away. That competitiveness. You want to see that sign. You want to see that look at a batter's eyes. You want to see that umpire crouching back behind the catcher. You just want to do it. You've done all your life. You just can't get rid of it.
If Ted Turner's still on the Braves, you think he'd give you the shot to go and be the oldest pitcher in baseball history?
I don't know. I would like to do that. I just like for my own satisfaction, my own peace of mind, go out there and pitch an inning or two. Should I get him out? Sure. I'd like to do that anywhere.
What I never understood was your son. How come he wasn't a pitcher?
Well, I've got 3. I think everybody thought they were supposed to be pitchers, but one had a real good sinking fastball, curveball, played a little college ball, hurt his arm. The oldest boy just never got into the sports. Michael, my youngest son, played some high school ball, but I don't know. I think a lot of people thought they should play, and there's a lot of probably sons of athletes that don't follow in their dad's footsteps, and mine didn't. I had nothing against them. I didn't force them. I didn't ask them to. We worked out when we could. We played catch in the backyard, and it just wasn't. It wasn't in the cards for them, I guess.
Now you're a 5-time Gold Glove winner. Is that because you're able to get in position by the time the ball was crossing the plate, or your athleticism, or what?
No, I worked a lot on spring training of that. Once I became a starting pitcher, I realized if I got there every 4 or 5 days, I'm going to have 35, 40 starts. How many ground balls are going to come back to me? A lot. How many double plays can I turn? How many bunts can I field? How many good throws can I make? How many times am I going to come up to the plate and have to get a guy over the plate, sacrifice? So, put the ball between the 2 white lines. So work on my pickoff move. So every year I went to spring training, there's only so many times you can throw a baseball, and there's a lot of time down. You just stand around shagging fly balls, or when the game practice over, nothing to do. I'd just go down in the batting cage and wait for Hank Aaron and Horner and Murphy and Felix Milne. I got a batting cage, and I'd jump in there and work on that. And I had coaches hit me ground balls back to me on the mound until they probably got blisters, and they said I had enough. So, but in my career is over, I don't know how many, but I'm sure I probably won quite a few games because I could feel my position or pick a guy off or 2 or let a sacrifice bunt down.
Just think how many Gold Gloves you would have had if Jim Cott wasn't playing.
Well, he was an exception. You know, I was good for 5 out of those careers. He would, you know, almost every day of his career.
Now, people overlook your hitting prowess. During the course of your career, you did hit 7 home runs. Was there a favorite? You have a favorite home run?
Probably the one in San Diego in '82 when I hit a home run off Eric Shaw, and I wound up pitching a shutout. Probably that. I think that was at the top of the 8th inning, maybe. I do remember that home run because we had to go in there and win against San Diego the last 3 games of the season. And I just pitched a shutout in San Francisco, come back, and I pitched a shutout against San Diego on that Friday night, and wound up hitting that home run. So, yeah, that home run, a lot of people still tell me about that. It's at 12 o'clock probably back here in Atlanta, and people saw it on TV and heard it on the radio, and they always mention that home run to me is that one. A couple other ones, yeah, here and there, but that one stands out for me.
You mentioned Eddie Matthews was your manager, but wasn't your pitching coach for a while with the Braves Bob Gibson?
Yeah, when Joe Torre for a couple of years came over, he brought Bob Gibson, yeah.
What was Bob like as a coach?
Bob was our pitching coach. He was fastball slider, knock you down. I was just the opposite of the way he pitched, so we got along good, but I don't think he could help me a lot other than mental and to keep me in condition. But as far as us talking to each other about pitching, we're like night and day there.
Did you have a favorite manager to play for?
Every one of them. Everyone. I got along with my managers, got along with my players. Bobby Cox was outstanding. Billy Martin was outstanding in New York. I enjoyed Bristol and Atlanta, Billy Hitchcock. Well, all of them. They had confidence in me, and I didn't agree with them all the time when they take me out of games, but they get paid to do that. That was their job. Maybe I would have done the same thing, but I've always told a manager, don't ever come out and ask me if I'm tired, because I'll lie to you. You just take me out of the game when you think I can't get him out anymore. That's his job.